Aloha. So if you follow me, you know that I get angry at fake leftists acting like supporting the Democratic Party. If you're a leftist, you cannot support a right-wing liberal party. This is the majority report who has been doing that. I've started this just a little bit. So they started sounding a little better to me. Let's see how they start and then see how they finish.
As we turn from, how do we with our ideologies react to these type of fights? You had a tweet the other day that caught my eye, and I'm like, well, I got to have Jeet on. Because I am struggling with this as well. And I of course don't have the tweet in front of me, but it was something to the effect of like, one of the mistakes that you've made in your politics is the idea that you think Democrats, progressive Democrats, can work within the Democratic power structure. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, I think people, with the broadly left politics were very disappointed that neither, Sanders nor Elizabeth Warren became the nominee in 2020, and it was Biden. But once Biden came in, Biden did try to co-opt elements of the Sanders-Warren agenda, especially instead of hiring a lot of Warren people who ended up doing good work within his administration, and also a lot of Bernie's.
I mean, they didn't do that much good work. Everybody was hurting. Nobody felt this great economy they said that they created.
Goals. And so, I mean, the good aspects of Biden's administration really came from that sort of insider strategy, and I don't want to downplay that. That was, there was
what good parts though?
Biden, with Ron Klain as the chief of staff.
I wish they would give more details, what they think these good parts are, the good parts. What are the good parts, sir?
You actually had the left having a role in national politics that it really has not had since the 60s, since
How in the world? I'm sorry to cut it off so much. How in the world did we have a role bigger than we've had since the 60s? That's insane to say.
Johnson. But I mean, I think that strategy always came with sort of cost, and I think that especially on the sort of congressional level, there's the idea one saw sort of. I think there's a divide in the squad between people who have become completely oppositional to the Democratic Party and someone like AOC, who I think has been pursuing an insider AOC, strategy.
Right.
But one saw this actually when Biden was kind of going down, where they, both Sanders and AOC were supporting Biden even after the that horrible debate, and they were trying to got concessions from him. They actually got Biden.
They know AOC. They know Bernie Sanders. They know Joe Biden. AOC and Bernie Sanders know Joe Biden, right? They knew he was cognitively impaired, but they still supported him. I don't know. How can you trust somebody that does that? That guy was running for president. They supported a mentally impaired person for president.
He went out
was going to cap rent at 5 or 9% or something.
Right. At the time I had defended that, and but actually now we're kind of seeing especially
one issue. I like capping rent. I'm assuming that it's 5 or 6% increase per year. Here it's 10% in Hawaii.
See, with how they had a choice between Jerry Connolly and AOC, and to head the oversight committee, and they went with the 74-year-old guy who has throat cancer, who all sympathy for him and his family as he struggles with this. But when this guy goes on TV, he can barely speak. And this is this is
well, but Jeet, I mean, honestly though, for the 75-year-olds with esophageal cancer, he's got a pep in his step that a lot of them don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, to me, that thing, the fact that AOC played the inside game, and still and really tried to show I'm the good soldier. I will work with the coalition.
She fell in line.
Not Bowman. She was not Cori Bush. This party, the party elite is so committed, and I think there's actually a danger that if you're seen as the good soldier, that actually undermines your ability to challenge the party from the left and to win over people who are skeptical of the party, which I think.
So that's not true. AOC has some of the most support in the Democratic Party. Not all the people, but so many people voted for her and Trump, right? They're still seeing she's still kind of seen as an outsider. But she's not playing that role anymore. She's just, like he said, she fell in line with the Democratic Party. She should still be the outsider. She should still be doing sit-ins in Nancy Pelosi's office with Code Pink or whoever that was.
Bernie Sanders was able to do in 2016 and 2020 precisely because he was not a Democrat.
Right.
That is always the acquisition. He's not
So you have more power not being a Democrat, or you have more street credibility.
a real Democrat. Well, guess what? If people associate the Democratic Party with neoliberalism, then not being a Democrat, makes you more popular. So I
Sounds
think
good to
going
me.
forward,
So what he should have just said right there is something about the Green Party or the Democratic Socialists of America. Let's see where he goes.
I think that the inside strategy doesn't have much more juice in it.
Right,
And
I agree.
That there might be a role to play. I think in organizing outside the party,
I like it.
To challenge the party.
There we
And
go.
I think especially if you're thinking in terms of presidential race, but
So I'm surprised they have somebody on here talking like this, challenging the Democratic Party from outside. I haven't heard them talk like this in years.
also in sort of other primaries for Senate and Congress.
Up and down the ballot, sounds good. Sounds exactly like what I've been talking about.
To get people who are outside the party doing political agitation, political
I mean, I think he was listening to my conversation. This is exactly what I've been saying.
work, building a political base.
If he gets to the end and says Green Party, I'm going to scream for joy.
And then coming into the party
Or
as an
DSA.
outside force. So
Oh,
imagine someone to get people who are outside the party doing political agitation, political work, building a
power.
political base, and then coming into the party as an outside force. So
And then give up your power. Did you just hear these? So this is an op right here. Do all the stuff you want to do. Do all the stuff you want to do. Like make your community better. Get all happy, and then just go join the Democratic Party and give up all your power. Go back to the establishment. What in the world? Are you serious? How? So yes, very, very disappointing. Again, on the Majority Report. I mean, this is their guess, but this is what they've been saying too. This sounded so good. It sounded so good what he was saying up until the very end.
I would imagine someone let's say imagine a union leader like Sean Fain, or there are others, but organizing events, organizing a draft Sean Fain movement, but it's outside the Democratic Party, and that he only comes into the party as an outside force and doesn't try to play nice or
he comes into the party as an outside force, just like AOC. First day she got in, she was sitting in Nancy Pelosi's office demonstrating with some protesters. And now she calls her Mama Bear. If he gets a movement and then goes into that party, the first week, month might be something, but after that, he's just going to fall in line like AOC. This is so disappointing.
beforehand.
So
I have a slight disagreement, though.
let me just see if
Okay,
I
let's see where
understand,
they're at.
because Sanders said something similar in his interview with John Nichols, but it was
That's
more.
terrible.
He was talking more about in red states, trying.
Yeah.
Sanders' idea was decent, but he just wants to get a bunch of independents. He's not. We need to build a coalition to win. How are we going to be just a bunch of independents? That's what we are now. That's why the left doesn't win, because most of the left doesn't want to do anything. They don't want to hurt people. They just want to live, right? But you can't just live because there's so many people. There's going to be a government. So the people who love people and just want people to do well need to start running for government. We need a coalition build. We need to be as aggressive as Donald Trump and Elon Musk. The people who love money, the people who love people need to be just as aggressive. And that's not going to be in the Democratic Party.
Encourage Dan
yeah,
Osborne's.
yeah.
But what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is there's two
Build
things.
power to
One,
give it up.
and maybe Emma's going to take issue with this as well. The analysis that working within the party somehow diminishes your electoral power. I mean, because
Yes, that seems
that's
true.
one assertion, and maybe your ability to bring people into the maybe
I don't-
ability.
Not as much that it lowers your street credibility, like with regular people. Yeah, you start taking more money, and your chances to get elected do go up, right? Because now you're more corporate and you're more establishment, like they want you to be. So you're gonna get voted in more. But if you wanna be able to move the people, if you want to be able to draw those big crowds like a Bernie Sanders. You're going to have to talk to the people, not
bring people into it. I mean, it's unclear to me that you can make that case with AOC, frankly, because she did very well in her district,
That's true,
right,
particularly relative to Harris. But
but see, she got, like I said a minute ago, she got a lot of votes, like Trump got a lot of votes by the same people. They look at them as outsiders. She's not getting votes because she's a Democratic shill. She's getting votes because they think she's still on the outside. They just remember her protesting and talking a little bit of crap here and there. They don't follow politics. Most of the people, like I follow politics, like anybody watching this channel follows politics.
Idea of organizing outside of what people traditionally perceive as partisan politics, building a power base and then moving laterally into the Democratic Party so that you already come.
Sounds like the dumbest thing
That's sort
we've
of
heard.
like what AOC did in some ways in her primary, right?
Yeah,
and it doesn't work at all. That's about as dumb as, I think it was Emma that said nationalizing oil and then breaking it up, or something, like, or I don't know if it was Google or what, but nationalizing things to break it up, just as stupid.
I mean, she did the primary. I'm trying to think of like if it's possible to like replicate that model in this new moment where like
Why would you want to replicate that model
in power? Because I don't actually see the party. I mean, maybe Ben Winkler will become
got her to fall in
head of
line.
the DNC. There might be a few other moves still to play, but I'm not sure that the sort of centrist faction of the party is willing to give up power.
Oh, they're definitely not willing to give up power. I mean, the question is how do
we dislodge them? How do we dislodge them?
So if the Democratic Party is center right, we have a right-wing party, it's very strong. We have a center party, center-right party. It's kind of strong. It's hard to be strong in the center. When you waffle, you don't stand for nothing, right? We need a left-wing party, and it'll never be the Democratic Party. It won't. How can the Democratic Party be left? They're run by centers, run by center folks, and capitalists. Liberals are on the right. That's what it is. These guys are just off the
right?
Yes.
But the stuff about I disagreed with how Bernie and not Warren, Bernie and AOC were backing Biden at that time, right? So perhaps we had a different perspective on it at the time. And look, I got a lot of stuff wrong. I thought Harris would win. We're all just looking back and reflecting.
I don't understand how any of these political pundits could have thought Harris was going to win. I thought Trump was going to blow her away. I knew Trump was going to beat Hillary, and the only reason Biden beat Trump was because of COVID.
I basically thought that propping up Biden in that moment, regardless of when we're talking about ideological gains, if he could theoretically win,
they lied to us, right? Like I said that earlier. They propped him up. They supported him, knowing his mental capabilities have slid so far, and they still supported him. That's lying to the American people about who's going to be the president of the United States. That's unacceptable. How can we believe them anymore, AOC or Bernie Sanders?
Polling said Trump was going to get 400 electoral votes. That was a miscalculation in my view, because to signal an outsider thing, or really it's about democratic responsiveness, right? Or looking responsive to the public in a direct way. That's what Trump has revolutionized with the Twitter and the vulgarity and whatever. People feel like they know him for better, for worse, and they feel like there's almost a more direct communication style. Why AOC was able to maintain her, I think, her popularity in her district, which is majority Latino, the group that Biden lost most from, was because she still has that insider status, despite what you said. Even if outsider, despite what
Freudian slip. She got it right. She turned to an insider. I was just about to say she gets online and she just lies to us, right? Like she'll say what you want to hear, but she don't do that stuff no more. She don't mean it no more. She don't fight for universal health care no more.
What you say, because I don't think people paid attention too much to that period. It still is generally her working class background, her not talking down to people and coming off as critics of both parties in the way that Trump does, and speaking directly to people. I think that's what the Democrats really, really failed with. And that is because, in part, Biden was unable to communicate and didn't use the bully pulpit of the presidency in any way. So that's just my difference.
Right. they got a party that doesn't talk to the people, that doesn't want to talk to the people. So this dude is all like, "Oh, go out and talk to the people." All the people start getting together and coalition build and do this and do that, right? Start volunteering and just build your town up. And then once you do all this stuff, go to the party that doesn't do it. Why would you do that? There's already parties out there that do that. There's left-wing parties that pay attention to their communities and don't get a lot of pub because the Democrat and Republican Party, they run everything right. They're the corporatists. The Green Party doesn't take money from corporate sponsors or whatever you call it, big money PACs and stuff. If we're going to coalition build, if we're going to do this, like, he had such a good idea. He sounded exactly like what I've been saying. But then he's going to say, take that to the Democratic Party? Why in the world would you do that? Now she's just going to, they don't do that. They don't even want to do that.
I guess in your analysis of her specifically, but I think if you were to expand it beyond her, because her political acumen is so specific, I would agree with your assessment.
Yeah, and I don't want to be on AOC too much. I mean, I think I mean, my main issue is not even like a criticism. Like, I just think that the insider game that she played has kind of failed. I think the insider game that Sanders played yielded some policy successes, but it's also like there's.
And imagine so perfect example. 2016, Bernie Sanders had a movement. We had a revolution going. They cheated him. He knew it. We knew it. Even if they didn't cheat him, who cares? He should have went to the Green Party with his movement. He should have just stepped right over, said, "Everybody come here." His crowds would have stayed as big. We all were looked at each other like, "Are we voting green? We voting green? Yeah. All right, let's do this." They got their 5% right there. He probably would have won. I'm pretty sure Bernie would have won. Nobody wanted Trump. And half the people that, maybe not half the people, but a lot of people that left Bernie went to Trump because they wanted that outsider. Like that whole article about the people that voted for AOC and Trump, same thing. Bernie Sanders and Trump, both outsiders, whatever. But had Bernie taken that movement to the Green Party, what would have happened? Or in 2020, had he not even ran in the Democratic Party, had he just started his movement in the Green Party the next time, where could we be? But imagine he did in 2016. He probably would have won. We started with a run of senators and stuff in 2018. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would be a Green. She ran after the Bernie movement. All the squad would be Greens now. All that little bit of power that we built since 2016 in the Democratic Party that they say that we built, that they built, whatever, these so-called progressives, where's the power? Where's the movement? They killed the movement. The Democratic Party will kill this movement. Even if we do have a big movement and we get 5 people elected in every state, which would be a huge number to start with, right? What would the Democratic Party do? They would just stop talking to us. They would give us the lower positions. Like AOC, they wouldn't let us do stuff. If we're in the Green Party, now we're showing the people want something different, right? We'll have a whole different type of power. We'll have that outside power like he was talking about, that you don't get when you fall in line with the Democrats.
There's no future for it, right? Like, if you don't have a Democratic president.
Because her political acumen is so specific, I would agree with your assessment.
Yeah, and I don't want to be on AOC too much. I mean, I think I mean, my main issue is not even like a criticism. Like, I just think that the insider game that she played has kind of failed. I think the insider game that Sanders played yielded some policy successes, but it's also like there's no future for it, right? Like, if you don't have a Democratic president. So I'm just trying to think of like where do you go? And what part of
but wait a
second. There's no future for it if you don't have a Democratic president. The Democrats are the one who killed the movement. How can they say this stuff with a straight face that doesn't make any sense?
Let me just, because I'm unclear, and there's 2 things. One, we got an IM that says, I agree with Jeet. Progressives need to abandon the Democratic Party and use that refutation as a uniting force of the left. We should pressure the squad to go independent and third party and form a coalition as a leftist front. That's not what you're saying, right?
No.
Right. Okay.
I think that they need.
But see, that's what I've been saying, and that's what he should be saying. You're not on the left if you're not saying that. Why are you sitting here talking about these liberals, these right-wing liberals, that that we need to keep helping them, that we need to keep doing what the right thing, and then going to them and let them put us in line and tell us where to be, because they're the adults in the room. It's not where it's at, my man.
To like have some independence from the party, especially if the party.
But
like,
what does that look like in terms of like, because I'm looking at the labor advances and the antitrust advances, and the antitrust advances were even more extensive. And Warren, I think, plays
I know Warren
almost exclusively an inside game versus an outside game, whereas Bernie does the opposite, right? I mean, Bernie was out there using his campaign to literally fund union organizing simultaneously,
and that's something the Green Party would do.
Pursuing that, it didn't catch in the way that I think they were hoping it would at the time. Although it's arguable as to whether Sean Fain is president of the UAW, were it not for what Bernie's campaign did to the idea of that membership in these unions had about organizing. So I mean, it's a little bit hard to say that you may not see a direct thing, but it's undoubted, a lot of that happened that way. But where is the failure here with AOC? Like, she gets 84 votes. She doesn't get the committee thing. Her playing nice in certain instances, but what's the cost associated with that playing nice in
stretching?
She's gonna be losing her street cred, like you said, playing nice, falling in line. That's not left-wing politics.
Electoral terms or in real terms that you see? Because as far as I can tell, there's no, a lot of that happened that way. But where is the failure here with AOC? Like, she gets 84 votes. She doesn't get the committee thing. Her playing nice in certain instances, but what's the cost associated with that playing nice?
Her soul.
In electoral terms or in real terms that you see? Because as far as I can tell, there's no winning or losing at this point. Like, she's still in the game. If she leaves Congress, she lost, right?
Okay.
Like, I get it. But where are you making the assessment here, other than like?
So when she got into Congress, she said that she was willing to be a one-term congressperson because she was willing to go in there and fight for the people and do the things that we need to do things that we need for us, like really fight for universal health care, fight to up the minimum wage, like free at least state colleges and universities, things like that, right? She did none of that. She went in there, she straight changed. What is the benefit for the people if she stays in Congress but doesn't do anything different than any other Democrat would do? There's no benefit for us. The benefit for her, yeah, she gets to get a great paycheck. She gets to stay famous. She gets to be a congressperson. Yay for her. He's asking the wrong question. What good for the people does it do that she's still there? Absolutely nothing.
She didn't win that one race, but it's pretty rare that a 3-term Congress person becomes chair of, or I should say, ranking member of a committee.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think that's all fair. I guess my question would be, like, sort of going forward, does she continue to try to pursue, like, trying to get these committee positions, or does she become a more kind of outspoken critic of the party, the way that, say, Bernie is?
She needs to do both. So he's kind of asking, is she going to fall in line and try to get these positions to become more of a Democrat, or is she going to be an outspoken person and not be able to do these spots because the Democrats won't like her and won't vote her in? So he's admitted right here that it's plain and stupid. Do not do this. We need to join the Green Party. Go out, make all this power, everything he said. But then why he just admitted that if she's going to be vocal and against the Democratic Party, that you can't move up in the Democratic Party, you can't get these powerful positions, and you won't be able to do anything for the people. So yes, do not use his idea in the way he used it. All the way up until that last little part, great ideas, coalition build, just as volunteer. Do whatever you think you want done, try to do it. Talk to people, have them help you do it. Make it so. But then, or even before, go to the Green Party at some point and do not do all this. And then go to the Democratic Party, like this man is saying, and give up all your power. That would be insane.
Yeah, like Tlaib, I mean, I think like Rashida Tlaib, and I think what she's doing is hugely important, because she's like almost a sole voice in Congress who was speaking out in any type of forceful way against what we're doing in that regard. But where does that get her? Because it seems to me that Bernie Sanders did this for 30 years.
Yeah.
He did what you're talking about in the House for.
Right. And what did it do? Imagine for 30 years, Bernie Sanders was in the Green Party, using his voice, teaching his politics, how to speak to people, and finding others like him to join the Green Party. Imagine if he built that out. DSA, whoever. If he picked a left-wing party instead of just being independent. Bernie, man, I've loved you since I met you on TV or wherever I met you. I didn't meet him in person, but like since I met Bernie Sanders, like in this way, love that man. I've seen so many videos of him even before he was popular. Like I was telling people about Bernie Sanders in 2012, maybe even before, but I lost my thought. This is what you're talking about.
Party, the way that say Bernie is, like
the 30 years.
Well, like Tlaib, I mean, I think like Rashida Tlaib, and I think what she's doing is hugely important because she's like almost a sole voice in Congress, who is speaking out in any type of forceful way against what we're doing in that regard. But where does that get her? Because it seems to me that Bernie Sanders did this for 30 years. Yeah. He did.
And again, I don't think we got much out of it. He, at the very end of his career, he started this revolution stuff, right? Maybe at the very end, it's been 8 years now almost. Yeah, it's been 8 years, and he's got a good another, I don't want to jinx the man. He seems like he's probably got a long time to go. I'd say another 30, 40 years, Bernie, let's do this. But imagine had he started this movement 30 years ago. What we could be doing now. I'm 45. I'd have been 15. I'd have been psyched to get out of high school and or even be in high school. I wasn't very political back then, but to see a movement like that, it might have got me into politics, but I got pretty political pretty fast afterwards, after high school. So, I mean, it would have been great to have that be my adult life, seeing an actual left that I could participate in, that I could feel like, oh, I'm going to go to that party, I'm going to run for them. They take teachers, they take car mechanics, they take Joe the plumber and put him in office because he understands the way society works and the way people think. Not just these rich people who don't even buy their own groceries. How are you going to care about the price of groceries when it doesn't matter to you? You don't. Like, saw Dr. Oz go shopping. You never seen Dr. Oz go shopping? Look that up, man. That is funny.
What you're talking about in the House for 30 years and was lucky enough to be able to get, to become a senator and then was going to do it in 2016. And because his mindset was, my job is to message, period, he missed a golden opportunity, it seems to me, to have actually become the nominee.
Yeah, no, I mean, he didn't take his own campaign seriously enough for his chances. No, but
he didn't know that he could win. He didn't know that the people would get behind him that much. But that's the thing. You should have been doing this, Bernie, from the beginning. He talked to people all the time. I've seen so many just things with Bernie, man on the street. Bernie was doing that when he was mayor of wherever he was mayor of. He would go to little kids in the park and at the mall and talk to them and interview them and do these looking like YouTube interviews back in the 80s, maybe 90s. I don't know when he started, but a long time, might have been the 70s. That was before the 90s.
I mean, if that is the model, then one could see someone doing it not for 30 years, but for 10 or 15 years,
right.
And actually getting somewhere with that. But I think it would mean if one is going to pursue.
But see, the one thing Bernie didn't do is coalition build. He did within the Democratic Party and within Congress, and he always, what they call that, he worked with the Democrats, like when they voted with them or whatever, I forget the exact term. But he always was with the Democrats, but that's not a real coalition, because when he tried to bring the people into the Democratic Party, they shunned him, they kicked him out. They let him in, but then they cheated him. They cheated us, they cheated the American people. Why are we talking about the Democratic Party still? They cheated us, they told us they don't want us. They don't want you, Sam. Oh, you got money. That's right. That's why. But they said they told us they don't want us. We are the deplorables just as much as Trump's people to them.
Not just with AOC, but with other people within the party, or I think especially like my whole analysis is partially based on the fact that I really think, as we talked about before, we're living in an anti-system era, and I think that like the sort of points that you get for working within the system aren't as valuable as the points you can get from people who see you as the avatar or voice of.
But it depends on what you're doing within the system. People love Bernie because he kind of pushes the system, this and that. But all these other people working within the system, nobody likes Nancy Pelosi because she's the system and works within it. Nobody likes Joe Biden because he's the system and works within it. It's who is the system working for? People, the corporations, love our system, right? If you got money, if you own business, you love Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump, Chuck Schumer, all of them. You love. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican. If you were a big business owner, Elon Musk, he don't really care. Kamala Harris, if it was Kamala Harris, I bet all them dudes would still be there. Zuckerberg, Musk would still be at the inauguration. But yeah, people don't like the system because it's not meant for us. It's not built to help us out, the people. The corporations love it. Now, if you had the Green Party running the system and it was built for the people, they would love that. The corporations, they wouldn't like it at first because they think they was losing money, but once society was set up in a better way, they wouldn't need money like that.
Anger against the system.
And but so, how much power
because it only works for certain people
get in terms of outside? Because what you're talking about is you're talking about points with the electorate, right? Yeah. Like with constituents.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm partially thinking about like going further, like either running for the Senate, governor or president, and especially like thinking in terms of like what would a left challenge in 2028 look for within the Democratic Party. And I don't think that it can be someone doing even though like I think Elizabeth Warren has had an amazing legacy and has a lot of the good things that came out of Biden came from Elizabeth Warren and her people. In terms of like actually pushing the party like to the left, of dislodging that sort of centrist faction and having a real shot at the nomination, I think the only path forward is organizing outside the party against the party to change the party.
No,
so you're talking about like
right. It doesn't make any sense. They've been saying how you can't change the party, and when you try to go against the party, you lose cred within the party. When you go against the party, you gain cred outside the party with the streets. I don't understand. Like the Democrats, are they paying these people? It seems like they are paying a lot of people, or people are just so scared of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is done. He's not going to be president after the next 4 years. Okay, guys? Lose your TDS. Quit acting like the Democrats are a left-wing party and are ever going to do anything for the people.
We're talking like a presidential election, or maybe like some type of high-profile Senate.
AOC as I mean, she's young, but like not that much younger than JD Vance, I think. I think like I actually or her or Sean Fain or whoever. Like I'm trying to like think a little bit about like how and it's at the presidential level, yes, but also like in terms of as Bernie Sanders mentions, in terms of Senate races, governor's races, like what is the way in which I think like the left critique of
everyone is calling this
the much wider resonance than its electoral results are. Sanders mentions in terms of Senate races, governor's races, like what is the way in which I think like the left critique of American politics has a much wider resonance than its electoral results are, and I think it's partially because it's very difficult to articulate that left critique within the Democratic Party. So.
What is he talking about? Why would you tell people to go do leftist stuff, coalition build, and do all these smart ideas, and then to go to the party that you can't say leftist stuff? What did he say?
Resonance than its electoral results are, and I think it's partially because it's very difficult to articulate that left critique within the Democratic Party. So the question is like
makes no sense.
How can we organize? Like maybe AOC's energies would be better spent, doing the critique of the Democratic Party, which she also does very well, focusing more on that rather than pursuing committee positions. Like it would have been great if she had gotten the committee, but like for me, this was a real. I understand the point she's young, but they literally had a guy who's dying. You know, they literally put her up against the guy who's dying, and they said we're going with the guy who's dying. And for
This is the party that he's telling you to join. I don't understand. How don't they hear themselves? Like, what does this mean? How do people do this? He's saying to do all the good stuff and then go join this party that would rather put a 74-year-old dying man up than a leftist. Why would we join this party? He's arguing, his points are arguing against his point? Or whatever you call it. His reasoning is arguing against his plan, or his points are arguing against his plan. This makes absolutely no sense.
It's his turn.
It's his
Well,
turn.
I mean, I guess,
That's what matters.
Yeah.
So join the party where they take turns. No.
I guess I'm not seeing her as a viable presidential candidate in 2028 at this point. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think
What Democrat is?
I think if your argument is she setting up a run to do that, we see that with Chris Murphy, right? Like Chris Murphy's out there criticizing on day one. He's out there criticizing the Democratic Party as
Vaguely,
you know, to the extent that you can. If you're Chris Murphy, I guess.
To the
And that's
extent
the way
that
he's
you
trying-
can, because you can't. They even said you can't criticize the Democratic Party or they won't let you do things. Why would we join this party? Why would you say all these things? None of these things go together. They don't make sense as a clear thought process. This is some cognitive dissonance on a level this is almost artful.
Trying to set up his run. I think what you're talking about is having a little bit more than just an aesthetic in terms of that critique. I
mean, she would be. To me, she'd be superior to Murphy because she would actually have like an actual politics.
Oh, I agree.
An actual credibility.
Right.
yeah.
But I mean, not just at the presidential level. Like
But the Democratic Party won't let her.
I think like at all levels of the party.
So join the Democratic
You're
Party.
gonna have to have, you know, people like, you know, you have primary races, you know, like in Congress, in the Senate, for governor's races, and the whole question is like, how do you, you know, push this party to the left, or not even to the left. I mean, I think, like I said, how do you make it like a more of an anti-system party, more of a party that's actually able to listen?
What does that mean? How are you going to be an anti-system party and not push them to the left? They're just going to... That's why they're the centrists, because they're the pro-system party.
To the anger that is out there.
Status quo is what they want.
And so my whole thing is, I worry that an insider strategy at this stage, like I think it made a lot of sense, especially in 2021, 2022. But at this stage, I think an insider strategy cuts against like the need to have a left anti-system politics.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. I'm not sure that you can't do both, frankly. I mean, at least in the position, if you're in Congress, you're sort of...
You can do both if you're in a different party. Like he said, we coalition build, we do all those good things, build the Green Party. We get people in Congress, we get people on school boards, we get people city councils, we get a mayor here and there, we get a whatever, we get a couple Senate members, a couple House representatives. Now we have our power in Congress. Now we have that little bit of a system in place to be able to do something.
A left anti-system politics.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. I'm not sure that you can't
do both. Is the point.
Both.
So you can do both once we get in there. You can't do both within the Democratic Party. They've been telling you this whole time that you can't do both within the Democratic Party. That if you criticize them, you won't. They put the 74-year-old dying man in over the young lady who is AOC, who is the most popular probably Democrat there is, got the most votes with Trump voters than any other Democrat. So she can talk to more people than most of these Democrats, but no, they don't want her. They'd rather, like you said, have a dying man in. And so, yes, explain to us why we should keep messing with the Democrats.
Frankly, I mean, at least in the position, if you're in Congress, you're sort of you're more or less part of the system. It seems to me.
There
like
you
you
go.
know, if you know, I don't know how you. I can see you can run against the Democratic Party within the context of the party, I guess, and it depends on like where someone like her thinks that she's running. I also think that like just taking power and doing what you're going to do with it is a good thing. Now, I also think that, like, actuarially speaking, if we're sitting here saying that Jerry Connolly cannot go the whole way, maybe he can't.
Maybe. But I'll also just point out, like, there is also a problem with like, as much as we talk about how the Republicans are, like, the Trump voters, they're lacking in media literacy, or like they're doing so for an uneducated reason, and that's an easy point to make.
It's crazy the way they talk about
Democratic
other people. Those are the people that we could get, the Green Party, because we're not going to talk down to people who voted for Trump because they're feeling the pain of the economy. The economy's been bad for people for like 40, 50 years, and they know it. Trump voters are angry, right? They're what they see around isn't what's happening. What the Democrats tell them isn't what's happening. And these people are going to just tell us, she's going to tell them that they're low information. That's why Trump is so strong, because he doesn't talk like that. Hillary called him deplorables. And I forget what Kamala called him, but you guys looking down on these people. That's not how it works. That's not building coalitions.
Primary voters reward the exact wrong things every single time. And it is the constituency that has been continuously cultivated within the Democratic primary voting base is one that values, like Nancy Pelosi has, 80% approval rating with Democratic voters?
How is that possible?
So there is a problem, I do believe, and disconnect between the...
But see, that's like with Democratic voters, right? We need to get the disenfranchised 40 to 50% that doesn't vote, and then those voting for Trump, and then a few of the Democrats will come over this way. But I mean, we need to separate what center, what right and left are, because if we do this my way, the Democrats will probably dissolve. They'll split into the right-wingers, who they are, and most of them will go to the Republican Party, and then the actual progressives and left-wingers will come over to the Green Party, and the Democratic Party won't be there. There's no need for a center party other than just to push a country to the right or help a country stay right. There is no opposition to the right wing.
Structure of the primary process in the Democratic Party, and it's way too insular, like their leadership fights, like this gerontocracy. It's all about internal politics in Washington, as opposed to thinking about general election mobilization, and not just doing kind of this safe cowering thing that the Democrats have been doing as a voting bloc for quite a while.
Vote blue no matter who. She's been saying that for I don't know how long. That's
pay close
crazy.
attention to what I'm about to say.
I think that's absolutely true. I think that this last election might offers an opportunity to maybe change some of that. I mean, as mentioned, Sam and I were on this cruise, and there were. There's a wide. The cruise is actually a microcosm for the whole Democratic Party. You get everyone from sort of like red diaper babies to DNC types. But I did notice that many more people were receptive to sort of critiques of what we could call MSNBC resistance liberalism. I mean, there was a few people who still said, "Well, I like Joe Scarborough," but I think most people.
I don't think you can have resistance liberalism. Liberalism is pretty much the status quo. It's staying the same. That's weird.
Are not there anymore, and I actually think that one of the opportunities of the moment is that sort of hold. I mean, I think that institutional supporting primary voter came from the fact that the party could deliver. They could deliver election victories. They could deliver some results, right? But if you have a Republican trifecta and you've lost to Donald Trump, 2 out of 3 times, I think that there's a lot of people that are going to be open to a critique that, hey, the people running this party, there's something fundamentally wrong with them.
Yes.
I think, again, this is what Donald Trump was able to do. Trump came at his success was owed to the fact that Bush and Cheney had discredited a whole wing of the party. Mm-hmm. McCain had lost, Romney had lost, and so there were a lot of Republicans who didn't respect the party. And so if people were saying Donald Trump's not a real Republican, he's like an outsider, that was all to the positive. So I actually think that within the Democratic Party, there might be some appetite for someone who actually challenges all the failure.
So not within the Democratic Party, within the people of America, yes. The Democratic Party, they keep saying how the Democratic Party won't let you change it, and he's gonna say, "Oh, they have a thirst for change."
Of the party elite.
I think that
Republicans who didn't respect the party, and so people were saying Donald Trump's not a real Republican. He's like an outsider. That's all to the positive. So I actually think that within the Democratic Party, there might be some appetite for someone who actually challenges all the failures of the party elite.
I think that's true.
No.
I mean, but I also
yes.
think this has been a constant, for the last 15 years. Like I think, Obama won as a change candidate.
Right.
He didn't necessarily provide it in the way that I think people thought.
Not at all.
Generically speaking, he was a change candidate. And remember, everyone prior to Obama in 2004 given that speech, and even months later at the DNC, go into 2006, everybody thought it was Hillary Clinton's. Everybody thought that. Everybody thought it was going to be Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee.
Loser.
There's
so
no
crazy.
discussion. And it wasn't until 2006 where, Obama, who was just 2 years into the Senate, prior to that was a state legislator, gets on the scene. And so there was that same sense that he was from the outside, even if he didn't necessarily have
Criticizing
the kind
the war.
of base.
Criticizing the Iraq War.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, no, this is the whole point. Since basically the Iraq War went sour in 2004. And
So Obama pretty much did his plan too, right? He coalition build. He did left-wing stuff, spoke really left-wing things, got into the Democratic Party, got to be president even, had a supermajority, could have passed universal health care, could have done all that, did nothing. We did exactly what he's saying already. We already did it. Actually, there you go. We already did it. Obama did it, got to be president, got the people, got the crowds, got everything, right? The Democratic Party shut that down.
And then with the economic meltdown in 2008, Americans have been unhappy with the direction of the country and have been anti-system.
Even after the economic meltdown, we still couldn't really take over the Democratic Party. Barack said we was going to do it, but then he just told us to go sit back at home.
The first anti-system politician.
And Bernie was the number two. I mean, this is the problem with the Democratic primary, process that we had, is that, Bernie was also considered that candidate.
Yeah,
and,
he was.
But Trump criticized Jeb Bush on the war on the debate stage as well. So the three people we're talking about here were all against this militarism. And I'm sorry, I know we're all have a lot of thoughts, but I'm reading Richard Beck's book right now about how we're all just living in the shadow of 9/11 and the war on terror, and how a lot of our political ecosystem right now can be explained by that. And I think that we're hitting on that here as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obama came as a change. And I think in 2012, he was gifted by the fact that the Republican opponent was Mr. Establishment, like Mitt Romney, whose family had been huge in the Republican Party and in Mormon politics for over a century, and who literally made his money deindustrializing the Midwest and throwing people to work as a vulture capitalist. And so Obama could again be, I'm the agent of change. And Obama ran as the agent of change, not just against the Republicans. He was I'm turning the page on the Clinton era as well.
Yeah.
But unfortunately the party, after, these two victories, they decided, well, let's actually go back to the Clinton era. Let's go back to, candidate whose name is associated with NAFTA. And then Donald Trump was able to run as the change candidate. And in 2020, I mean, it's very interesting because Trump could not run as I'm fighting the man, because he was the man. And there was all these things COVID and police brutality, which were, hugely unpopular. And the Democrats were able to harness a lot of the anti-system anger in 2020. But by 2024, they reverted to what I think is their natural default position, which is we are the party of the establishment. We're the party of the qualified people who know what they're doing, which I think is a losing argument. So, I mean, I think...
Right, like I said, I call them the adults in the room, the qualified people who know what they're doing. Same thing. That's what the Democrats are. They don't want the people to have power. They want us just to sit down and just vote them in and let them handle business because they know what they're doing. They believe in John Galt too.
That the future of politics is someone on the left who can harness that sort of hunger for change, the hunger to turn a page and to move beyond the standard policies. And I
And we've had that. Like they talked about Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders. The Democrats and AOC, the Democrats, they do not want that. They will not let that ride.
don't think like someone like Chris Murphy, who's been a standard centrist for most of his life, but is now using that speech, can quite do it. I think that someone, as I mentioned, like a union person coming outside the party could do it. I think someone like AOC, like if she were, gives more salience to the part of her persona that is like a critic of the party and less to working with it. I don't think there's any leverage or any points anymore for her to try to work with the party at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good argument. I mean, I think it would have to be to some material end, but I also
gives more salience to the part of her persona that is like a critic of the party and less to working with it. I don't think there's any leverage or any points anymore for her to try to work with the party at this moment.
What in the world is this man talking about? He's going to tell everybody to do what she did and then say there's no point for her working within. What were his words?
Gives more salience to the part of her persona that is like a critic of the party and less to working with it. I don't think there's any leverage or any points anymore for her to try to work with the party at this moment.
She has no leverage or no points to work within the party.
I think that's a good argument. I mean, I think it would have to be to some material end, but I also am up.
So insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, thinking you're going to get a different outcome. I don't even know, is this doing the same thing over again, thinking you're going to get a different outcome? You know the outcome. He's telling us the outcome. You do all this great stuff, be it Barack Obama, be it Bernie Sanders, then join the Democratic Party, and you're not going to be able to work within it. What are you doing? What in the world are you doing? Why are you talking like this? This doesn't even make sense.
Of the mind that one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders did so well in 2016, beyond what he thought he could do, I don't think he entered that race thinking he could win, was because there was a draft Warren campaign that had been in existence for 2 years and basically built, on day one, Bernie had about 10-20% of the vote that he would need.
When they did that, I knew he was going to run. They were trying to draft Warren, and I'm like, Bernie's the man because he has all the right ideals and policies, but he doesn't want to have to be the one to do it, and that's the one that you should want up there.
Without having to do it, because they just completely transferred over, and he took over that thing, and maybe AOC can build that kind of I hesitate to say the word movement, but that type of like.
But what good would it do in the Democratic Party? We just seen this
then
over and over and over.
Be for another candidate, but we will have this. We have plenty of time to have this conversation.
I don't know if they're even being serious. Why would you say to do all these big things and then give examples of people who've done these things and then say join the Democratic Party? When these people join the Democratic Party that did the things you say to do, the Democratic Party screws them over. No, do not join the Democratic Party. You got what? It doesn't make any sense. Do not join the Democratic Party. Do all those coalition build, volunteer, run for office, but do it in the Green Party. There's the only way they could have these silly ideas because they don't look at things from across the spectrum.